Clearly, what you're doing is healing people.
Yeah.
You're not just braiding.
Yeah, exactly.
You're actually a healer.
Yes, it's not just people who are trying to look trendy. You know, it's for people that are really trying to find themselves and trying to get their power back.
Free, it looks like.
A weight is lifted off your shoulders.
Don't you know you're magical? It looks like. Knowing I make my own realities that's not centered on Eurocentric normativities.
I want to be surrounded by people who enlighten me, and I enlighten them. And
Crush the herbs, talk to the leaves. I'm making dolls if you don't leave. I trust the earth, I know her well. I know the power of a black girl's spell.
What relationship do you have with hair? And what kind of power is that you're engaging with?
When I first started, it was scary. Like it was, and that was why, because in our culture and our beliefs, our spirit lives in our hair. So you don't just let like anybody touch your hair, right? And when people would ask me when I first started, I would usually say no because I wasn't sure how to use the right tools yet. I wasn't sure how to make sure that, you know, I'm protecting my energy and that person's energy and also giving good energy while I'm doing their hair. And throughout the process, like I've asked my auntie along the way, and a lot of times we'll use like rose water and stuff like that to clean our utensils if it's busy when we would be at a booth. And just trying to really, when I'm doing somebody's hair, I really try and give like good thoughts and good energy, and I try not to be in like a bad headspace while I'm doing it. Ever since I was younger, I always loved doing hair. Like I was always doing that stuff. I was always fixing my friend's hair, my little sister's hair, my little cousin's hair, everybody's hair. Like it's just always like, it's always been something that I enjoy doing just naturally and just wanting to learn more. And as I got older, I lost connection with it. I lost connection with that part of me, that side of me. And it picked up again when Riley grew out his hair. And it became this bond and this connection between me and Riley. It was like he would just be sleeping on my lap and I'd be braiding his hair, right? And it was just something that I love to do for him so that he feels good and he feels, you know, like his thoughts are put together and like he's feeling like he's ready, you know, for the next day or the week or whatever. And then because people started seeing his hair being done and everybody liked it, it became like a thing where it was like, I seen Riley's hair, like I want to go, I'll pay you, you know. And at first I literally was saying no. I was like, no, you know, like that's like, and it just happened, you know, like everything that, like how everything happened with hair and just where I am right now, it just flowed and it happened. Like it was just a path that I got put on, and it kept happening and I just kept going with it. And all like it was weird how everything worked out too. Like it was the support that I had, you know. And when people leave and finish getting braided by me, it like some people will message me after and say, you know, like I was feeling really low before I came to your house. And after I left, I felt very powerful. I felt revived. I felt much better. And that part of what I do for those people is like why I love doing what I do, right? Making them feel like when they're down here and then they feel up here when they leave. And they'll send me pictures and I've seen their pictures and they're glowing, right? And they just feel much better.
Why are you crying?
I don't know. It just makes me feel so good. Like that's why I love doing what I do. Is getting that feedback where it's like I was having such a bad week. I was having such a bad day, and you made me feel better. You made me feel uplifted again. And it's crazy because it's just hair, right? To some people.
To some people,
yeah. But to a lot of people, that could really like make or break somebody, right?
And we are back with another episode of Moments. I'm your host, Lady Dia, aka Lady Dia Melodia, talking to all the parents out there. And to all my non-parent listeners, I'm talking to you too. So sit down, grab your tea, and get lost in story with me. I'm your host, Lady Dia. Before we begin, please note that this podcast was recorded before the findings of the mass graves of children at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. There will be talk of residential school and their impact, so please protect yourself and take care as you listen throughout.
I always love doing that for people in general, like just even before braiding. When I get that kind of feedback, that's part of where my cup gets filled because I did that for somebody.
Take me back to the time when you knew that hair was more than hair. Did you always know growing up?
In our culture, it is very, you don't just touch a native's hair, you know, like I've seen a couple natives where you go touch their hair and they're like ready to like punch somebody, right? Because you don't just
part of their spirit.
Yeah, you don't just do that, right? It's like it's your strength, right? And he's getting his power back by growing his hair, you know. So it's just in our culture, and I'm glad that I got into what I got into because it helped me learn more, you know. Because like I was saying, I was like disconnected in that sense for so long, and doing hair, it kind of reconnected me, right? I wasn't really going to powwows. I wasn't really going to stuff like that. And I started doing hair again. I started going to powwows again. I started, you know, meeting a lot of like our sisters, right? Our native sisters who are very powerful. And
there's something about hair and identity. It's just interesting that you reconnected with your culture and your, you know, all your stories and stuff like that when you started going back to your hair.
I was really lost for so long, from probably 13 till 20 years old, you know, like I was just doing what everybody else was doing. I was just drinking and partying and stuff, right? I was just not even really paying attention to stuff like that before. And when we got sober, it just the path kept getting clearer and clearer and clearer, and then boom, that one year it just so crazy. Like I didn't even have to work to get people to come to us. Like we were just getting fashion shows and photo shoots and clients just left, right, and center. It was kind of overwhelming and scary for a little while there because it was a lot to try and navigate through not doing that before.
If people on the audio world hear those thumps, that's our children playing.
They haven't seen each other in a couple of weeks. I had so much fun.
Yeah. Where were you when you started Syilx Smokin Braidz? Mm-hmm. You had Max at the time?
Yes, I was like on a high. I was on freaking cloud 9, like through, even though I was so sick through my pregnancy, and then after I had Max, like I was like on cloud 9. I just had so much motivation. Like even during my pregnancy, I was like, I gotta, you know, I went and got my first aid. I went to this program. I went to all these different programs throughout being pregnant, and then after being pregnant, still going through programs and stuff. And that's what got me on the path where I am. I ended up getting into this program, Okanagan Nation Alliance, and they do a lot of business stuff. So I learned how to like make a business plan and come up with a business name. And if it wasn't for me going through that program, I wouldn't even thought to make my own business name and to become something. And in that program, I remember talking and being like, you know, talking to this girl, because she's like, well, I want to have, you know, like a cannabis business one day where I have lotions and oils and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, I'll have to have your products, you know, in my braiding studio or whatever. And it was just an idea. It was just like something that was just being talked about. And then like almost a year later, it just, not even a year later, probably that summer that I was in the program, I think I still have it in my notes where I had all the different names that I had an idea of what we were going to name the company.
Oh, wow.
And we were just mixing things together. And Syilx was by itself in a word, just in the list, and then Smokin Braidz was like separate. And then I had these two people tell me, like, why don't you put Syilx Smokin Braidz together? And as soon as they said it, I was like, I like that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's it right there. And I met a lot of beautiful people along the way, you know, and that support me on my journey because they see me when it was just an idea, when everything was just not even, I honestly didn't think we would be where we are today for braids, just for braids.
Your braids are so colorful.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you make them so colorful?
I don't have a favorite color. Like, that's one thing to know about me.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite color. If you had a gun in my head, like, I'd probably choose like glitter or pink if I, you know, but like, I don't have a favorite color. Like, I've always loved like all colors. Like, I've always just been a very like, and when I draw things, like my favorite thing to draw is like this colorful eye, and I always draw this colorful eye. And I drew it in the program that one time, and we all drew what we wanted to draw, and that's like what I drew, because that's like what I always draw when I draw. And everybody else had their drawings, and they were kind of talking about it like in a spiritual manner, where it was like, well, what does that drawing say about that person? What does their drawing say about themselves? And then when it came to me, it was like they were saying like somebody who sees the world in color, somebody who sees the world I wish I remembered exactly how she said it. Somebody who sees the world in just like a colorful way, like where it's just beauty, just beautiful everything, right? And when she said that, I was like, that's crazy. Like, it's just so crazy how small things that, you know, you just do, and you don't really think much of it. And then when there's like an outside perspective looking in and they say something about it, you don't really look at it like that until it's said, and you're like, holy, like, I don't know, like, I love vibrancy. Like, even when I was younger, like, I was always the one with the bright neon jacket, you know, like,
I'm here.
Yeah, freaking 6 feet tall and just, yeah, see me? I know you do. Like, that's what my client was saying about me the other day. She was like, you just shine. She was like, when I first met you, and we'd go to fashion shows and you'd be modeling and stuff, and you're just shining. It's so funny though, because I'm like a shy person, right? Like, before I met Riley, like, I was so shy. Like, I would like hide behind him, and before I would hide behind Riley, I would be hiding behind my sister Dee back home. And I was always like, kind of like, you know, like, kind of like, don't look at me, I guess, right? But also very expressionable, I guess. But Riley was really the one that kind of brought me out of my shell, where it was kind of like, don't care what people think and just be you, and, you know, like, and be free, like, just do what you do best, right? Because that's what he does. He does not care, right? Like, he is who he is. Nobody's gonna tell him different. Like, and he don't care if you got something bad to say or good to say or whatever, right? Like, that's just who he is, right? And he really brought that out of me, and we kind of level each other out like that, I guess, right? Because he's a hyper person. He can be pretty hyper. I can be hyper too, but he can be a lot. One of his bros was saying, like, because he was like, I remember one of my bros was meeting Riley, and Riley's just like not scared, right? He just has that thing about him where he's just not scared. Like, there could be the huge guy in the room, and Riley ain't scared. He'll go up there and just hard shake and let him know, I'm Riley, you know, like, and that's just who he is, you know. Some people might see that as a different way, but it's like this confidence with him, right? And I really admire that, and that brought that out in me, because I was really incompetent before I met Riley.
You are listening to Kirstin Tom.
I think when we got pregnant, it was kind of like, finally, right? Because we were
trying for a bit.
Yeah, we were trying for about 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years before I got pregnant. And then we kind of had this small conversation where I was like, you know what? maybe it's fine. Like maybe we'll just, get pregnant when we're older. And then I got pregnant, and it was like, I don't know, it was like, it just felt so, it felt so right. It like everything lined up, all the numbers lined up. Maximus came home from the hospital on our 7-year anniversary. So like all the numbers lined up, The day that Max was born was when his mom's mom had passed away. All these numbers just like kind of like line up in a sense like that, where it's like Maximus was so meant to be when he was, and our life before Max, like, well, like honestly, we were always like, what the hell were we doing before Max? Like, we were just chilling. We, like, when we got pregnant, it was just like, I think that's why it was fine, because we were being kids and for the longest time, right? Like, I feel like we needed that change in our life to take that next phase in our relationship, that next phase in our life, and and because we were together for almost freaking 10 years before we had a kid, right? And that's a long time to be with somebody and not have no kids, no marriage, no none of that, So we're just so comfortable with each other that it's like, when I found out I was pregnant, because I thought I had the stomach flu, because
I knew right away. I was like,
you knew,
and I knew what it was. I called it right away. I was like, it's a boy. And she goes, how do you know? I was like, it's a boy.
That's creepy. Yeah. That was Trophy.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was pregnant. Yeah. Trophy's like, you're pregnant, and it's a boy. And I'm like, you don't know that.
They always know, because they're the ones. They're the guilty ones. They know.
Making funny noises because they used to always touch my head. They used to always fall asleep with my head on her stomach, and I just freaking like. And then this one night I could start to hear this little faint, little like weird echo sound. Like, I don't know what I can't really explain how it sounded, but it was like an echo of like I don't know, like when your stomach growls, like it's just like it was like that. It was like, and it was constantly doing that every time she'd breathe it out. Oh, sorry, breathe in. And then every time she'd breathe out, like it was weird. I could hear this, and then right from that moment, like she was saying, "Oh, I'm sick, I'm throwing up, blah blah blah." I was like, "You're pregnant," and she goes, "No, don't say that."
I was so in denial. Like I was just like no. Well, yeah.
I was like, I would know.
Yeah.
If I'm pregnant.
I would know. That's exactly. I felt like I would know. Yeah. I would know if there's a human being growing inside of me. Come on now.
Like, yeah, I would feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like no, I guess not. My mom and everybody else knew though, like, because Lex had a stomach flu and then she got me sick, so I did have the stomach flu, but then it prolonged to like, a month later I'm still sick, right?
Still throwing up in the morning.
Yeah, so by then Mom was like, you know what, like we should go see if you're actually sick or not. And so she literally just brought me to the doctor's office that Monday while Riley was at work. And I was so scared. I was like, I'm not pregnant. And then I get in there and then they tell me I'm pregnant and I get out to the car and I'm just like sitting there with my head down like, holy shit. And my sister was getting into the vehicle and I wanted to wait for Courtney to get in the vehicle before I said anything. And then I was just sitting there quiet and my mom and my sister were like, so? And I was like, I'm pregnant. It was positive. I'm pregnant. And we ripped to Riley's work right away, and he knew as soon as I got out of the vehicle that I was there to tell him I was pregnant.
Pull up to the freaking work site. I just freaking warrior cried. It's just like, it's like, yeah, boys. I was like, this is you're looking at a new dad. And everybody's just like, what? Get out of here, man. Are you serious? I was like, yeah, she just went to go get tested right now, and that's her coming back, and she wouldn't be here telling me that she got negative, in person. So she come here and tell me I'm a father.
Yeah. And that's, I was like, and when he came up, and I could see his face, he was just already glowing. Oh. And I just looked at him, and I just, of course, I felt horrible. Like, I was in a big frumpy dumpy hoodie, probably hadn't showered for a week, Courtney took a photo of that moment of me telling him, and I was like, we're gonna be parents. And he just immediately started crying like happy tears, and we both just like cried happy tears. Like it was an exciting thing. It was like I literally felt like on cloud 9 because it was something that Like I that's always what I told him. I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. I was crazy. I was nutso while I was pregnant. Like he was so good. He was so patient. When I would get that like crazy like that, and I would just like go lock myself in our room because I was so hormonal and just so worked up. Like I literally wanted to like hit him sometimes. I was so just like hormonal, and I go lock myself in the room, and he would make me food every time. Like he would just fill up the plate with all this fruit, oranges and strawberries and bananas and pancakes and hash browns and just everything on this huge big plate. And I'd be sleeping, and I would wake up, and there's this huge, nice big plate of food. And like that was how it would always get solved all the time. Like while I was pregnant, like I would wake up to a big, huge plate of food.
Here you go, master.
He was so understanding. He knew I was like not being myself.
Yeah, it wasn't
You know.
who she was originally. Like everything was still all there, but it was just all jumbled up and just like, you know, all the hormones were going all over the place and just freaking, you know, anything I did, and it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
But you knew,
But
you're
I
like,
knew.
after pregnancy, this is going to change.
Yeah, it's
Well,
gonna
I had known that, you know, it was going to be different while she was pregnant than when she's not. I knew that right off the hop because my sister had 2 kids and she was like that with her 2 kids and her man.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
very observant. So like,
he grew up around women, so I was very lucky in that sense
women.
that he just understood.
Yeah.
He knows that women go through a lot while we're growing a whole human being, right? Like
so when you were pregnant, now go to. I wasn't crazy during pregnancy. I got crazy after the baby.
Yeah.
So how was that? How was that for you?
Yeah, there's this little high afterwards because we created this bond in the hospital, and then we get out, and then the baby's driving you nuts, and you're only running off of 30 minutes of sleep, right? Because the baby's up every hour, every 2 hours, every 3 hours, every 4 hours, or whatever. And the 4 hours doesn't even feel like 4 hours when they're sleeping 4 hours.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had a couple blowouts, you know,
because of just fatigue.
And just being like, you know, just being overwhelmed. You know, just being tired, overwhelmed, and like I was breastfeeding too, so I
just
literally
being
had
human, really,
yeah, exactly.
You know,
and it like to the point where it's like, you know, like we don't. It's like we fought, you know, pretty crazy, like back, you know, when we were younger or whatever. But it's like not even when we first met, we didn't fight like that, and throughout our relationship, we didn't really fight like that. We have a lot of good conversations that doesn't have to happen. But I feel like we were so overwhelmed after having Maximus and just being like sleep deprived and like, you know, and you should be resting and sleeping while the baby's sleeping, but you're also trying to get stuff done for the house before the baby wakes up. And it's just like this thing you have to try and balance out, right? And it really tests you together to really see where we can balance it out and help each other out, you know, in that time. And it was crazy. Like it was like crazy a couple of times where he would have to tell me to put Max down because I would be getting kind of out of control.
I know that when I was in the lessons, they're like, you know what? If you really can't, just put the baby down and walk away. And I had to do that too. I had to do that, but like it's like you kind of battle like, okay, I shouldn't be ashamed, but it's like no, it's okay to be like, I don't want you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need this like
I need
5 minutes
alone, or you know whatever. You need 2 to 3 minutes out in the hallway. You know, let the baby cry.
Yeah.
Crying's good for babies. I don't understand why people try and shush babies, and it's like, dude, like they're building up their vocals. They're trying to get their vocal box going. They're trying to figure out pitches and sounds.
Yeah. The funny uncles always got to be like, "What are you doing? Singing? Hey!" The baby's gonna scream, guys.
He's gonna be a big power singer.
Yeah, he's gonna be a good singer.
You know, but
So how is the breastfeeding then for you? How is the breastfeeding?
I breastfed for 13 months. When we first were in the hospital, I couldn't. It was hard. It was hard when I first started, and I had to have like a breastfeeding nurse come in and teach us and get us to learn. And I'm glad that I had him before COVID because I wasn't leaving the hospital. Like, even though we could have left, like, maybe the day after, 2 days after, I was like, no, we're not leaving. Like, I'm not ready to leave yet. I wanted to learn more and more from the nurses, and I wanted to make sure my baby was being breastfed. Like, I was so adamant about that. And him not being on formula. And I breastfed for 13 months, and it was great. But he just, by the time 13 months hit, he forgot about me. Like, he didn't want. At 4 months.
He weaned himself off.
Yeah, at 4 months he weaned himself off the soother. I would try and put the soother in his mouth, and he just
spit it out.
He's always kind of been independent that way. Like, we just kind of follow him in that sense, right? Like, and
he lets us know.
Yeah, I stayed up till probably about 4 a.m. crying though, when like he was done breastfeeding.
Wow.
Because I wasn't ready for that, like, disconnection, you know.
Interesting. What's going on, Joe? For me, Glory is clearly still enjoying the breastfeeding. I'm like, brother, are you done yet?
Are you done?
Like, are you done?
It's so beautiful.
It's crazy. It's a family. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
This just happened.
Yeah. Because we grew up together, basically. I met him when he was 15, when I was 15 and he was 18.
Okay.
So I was just a baby. Wow. You know, like, I was just a baby coming from this small town of Merritt, and all I knew was, like, country life. And then I come out here to a big city. This is a big city for me. Like, I was so starstruck when I came over here by all the lights and just all the vehicles, and it was just like I was in this. It was so crazy. Like, it just seemed like such a huge world, right? Because all I known all my life was just, like, little hick town and country music and, you know, like, and going hunting and all that stuff. Like, we would come over to the city, but it wasn't like I experienced it how living over here is, you know, and living with somebody who is from the city. And it's a different life. Like, we walked everywhere, you know, like, we were walking everywhere. Like, back home, like, you would, like, hitchhike because it takes 3 hours to walk somewhere, you know. So it's like, it was a completely different life, and I don't regret us coming over here when we did, you know. Like, we came over here because my mom was with Bob and I'm with Riley, and we're coming over here every weekend anyway. And it was funny though, because me and Riley met on a blind date.
Oh, somebody set you guys up?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was like, because it was like they were saying that we're a lot alike. Like, he's the girl, or I'm the girl version of him, and he's the guy version of me. Because, like, we can both be very, you know, when we're talking to us, and it's like this, like, you have good news or something, and we're so hyped, right? Like, just like, what? Oh my God, right? Like, and I think that's, like, what they were saying about us as people, is that we're can be very, like, enthusiastic, I guess.
The energy levels.
Yeah.
How does he feel about his hair?
He loves it.
He loves
it. Like, he likes it.
He loves getting it fixed. I'm like, hey, let's fix your hair. And he'll come sit in my salon chair, and he loves it. He sees everybody else sit in the chair, so he's like, this is what we do.
He sees Daddy with long hair. And getting it done all the time. And I said, this is your strength, Daddy. I said, this is where we draw. If we ever need strength and power and courage, and we ever want to dig deep down inside, I said, this is where we go. I said, right here, this is where all that comes from. Everything. That's your I forget what Lex said, but that's your total flap or something. I don't know. It's your strength. It's your, you know, it's your power. It's your who you are. It's who we are. It's not only who we are personally. It's who we are as a nation, right? Like, that's our people right here. This is what we believe in, and like length and hair back in the day used to be how much of a warrior you were, how great of a warrior you were. The longer hair that you had, the greater warrior you were considered, just because of the fact that you had that long hair. And it takes a lot longer to grow. It takes a lot more time. This, that, and the other thing. You have to take care. Exactly. So, I mean, like, you know, when we do come across those moments in life where Max is going to be questioning, oh, his hair and this and that, I'm just going to tell him stuff like that. Like, you know, this is what our people used to look towards, and, you know, respect it, and, you know, this and that. And, you know, I understand if you don't, you know, per se want it forever. That's your choice as a human being. That's your choice. Like, You know, I'm not gonna force them to be like, you grow your hair out, you know, you're native, blah blah blah. That's not right. You don't force anything upon anybody, or you know, I believe anyway you shouldn't, because you know everybody's here for a reason. Everybody lives their own lives for a reason. Everybody's got their own path to take, right? Like, and who are we to
dictate?
yeah, exactly. Like, this is the path we're going. You're not to go over there and try that or do this or be a part of that. Like, if you want to be a part of that, go ahead. If you want to try that, go ahead. You know.
But it's a hard one when it comes to college.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. So like, it's it when they grow their hair out like that, and a lot of the young boys like deal with that, and a lot of the reason why we grow our hair out now is because back in residential school everybody got their hair cut off because they're trying to beat the savage out of us, right? And so as the generations go on, it's starting to come back where that is also why it's our power, because they tried to take that from us. And when Max starts to struggle with that, because I know I have nephews and cousins that went through elementary school, and it was really, really tough and hard, and they usually 90% of the time cut off their hair because of the bullying at school and stuff like that. I made these sweaters, and it says boys with braids.
Ooh.
And I made one for a daddy and a son, so that they could rock it. And it's like this awareness thing, right? Like, because it's something that they struggle with all the time, right? Just trying to have beautiful, long, powerful hair.
So, wow, you have a story that says boys with braids. Yo, you see what I'm saying? That is dope.
Yeah.
That is so dope.
Yes. Because it's, you know, like in Casamute and Kisaltican, they have troubles at school and stuff, and sometimes they'll come over, they get braided, and one's 3 and one's 5, and they'll talk about it sometimes. And right away Riley's like, you see uncle's nice, powerful, strong hands, his uncle's strength, and he'll just kind of like hype them up in a sense where it's like, this is, you know, who we are, and don't let anybody else tell you different, and you know, try not to let it get to you, because in a sense that's being colonized when you cut off your hair.
You know, like, and that's where the people that were taking our hair, like, and that's where we say our spirit lives in our hair. So that's in turn, when you cut off our hair, you killed their spirit. You killed all. That's how come all of our people that did go to those schools don't talk about anything that went down in those schools, because they got their spirit taken from them. They got everything taken from them. They got it beaten out of them. They got, you know, a lot of bad stuff has happened in those schools, and they don't talk for good reason, because, you know, it's stuff that you shouldn't just bring up and can't relive. And, you know, like, you're talking about memorable moments in the areas you've been in, talking about that with those guys, it just brings them right back. And, you know, that's the type of stuff that, you know, it's a really deep subject to touch upon. And like, if you if you even mention residential school against or around people that have been to it, like, they'll flip out on you, and they'll just say, you shut the hell up, you know, I don't want you to talk about that. That's bad. I've had bad experiences, and, you know, it just sets them off, because it's in their mind that was a bad spot for them at the time. And
a lot of them have it blocked out too. Mom didn't even know that she went to residential school until she got a letter a couple years back saying, you need to sign this for residential school so you can get some money. And Mom kind of it brought back a lot of things. So it wasn't there, it was blocked. But then reading through that, it brought everything back. She was like, I faintly remember being locked in a closet, and being locked in this closet for like long hours and amount of time. And she's like, and I blocked that out. I wasn't really sure where I was or what I was doing and why I was locked in the closet. But once she got that residential letter, she was like, that's where I was. She didn't even know that she went to residential school.
Because it's trauma.
Like,
so your brain's trying to protect itself.
Yeah. And then it comes to the surface, and you're like, oh my God.
So how have you seen that, you kind of like being so proud of your culture? Do you see the effect that it has on your mother? Like, does she Like, or has she always been proud?
Well, it's hard to say with her. It's hard to say with mom because she's been disconnected for a long time. She hasn't, really went to a powwow or a gathering or drums or stickings or mushroom picking, berry picking, collecting, anything of that sort. Like she kind of lost herself in that sense a long time ago. Not lost, I guess. Like she just kind of gave up on it. And she hasn't really touched back into it in a long time. And I feel like a lot of that is trauma, right? Like, she was just telling me yesterday, she was like, you have land back home, right? You can build a house back home. And
to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where you're from, like Upper Nicollet.
Yeah. And she was like, and it would have been her land where she can build a house, but she's like, I'm never moving back. And I would love to.
But we will.
Yeah, I would love to because I want Max to grow up the way I did, right? I want him to, I want him to grab a fishing rod and just go down the river by himself and catch a fish for dinner, right? Like stuff like that is like something that is like all of that is just like all these memories to me that I want to reconnect with, right? So it's like because a lot of like just like my mom like got lost along the way, right? And you have to reconnect a lot of times throughout life because it's not just there, right? Exactly. We can't just go for a sweat, and that's something that our people do to replenish and like have some sort of clarity or vision and have
rejuvenation.
Yeah, and have like maybe some ancestors tell us where to go next and give us some sort of sign or a message while we're in that sweat. And man, when natives like sweat a lot because they have beautiful skin. They're just in there, just like you're in there until you almost can't breathe no more. It's so hot. The rocks are just hot. And you're in there almost half naked.
It's like 3 times the heat of a sauna room.
Yeah.
Like, you're outside in this hut that's dug out in the ground 4 feet down below, and there's a hut going up over, and it's just made out of nothing but twisted wood and branches and
blankets
reeds
over
and
it, heavy
either blankets, or you can do the traditional way, have your skins over it, or and it's crazy because you get these sweat rocks, and you get all these sweat rocks, and they're nice round rocks, and you just put them around the fire, and that fire, you build it up all day, all night, and you just freaking get it piping hot in there. And as soon as all those red rocks are glowing, freaking right, so send the boys in. You get in there and you stay in there.
And the rocks
act as like a heater, and so it just, and they have little jugs of water like that. To steam it out in there. So as soon as everybody's in the ceremony and the sweat house ceremony, you go and the elder or whoever is in charge will do the pouring of the water, and you don't pour the water on it a lot or too much. It's up to an elder to do it. So he does it. He sits down, and then you all sit there and just sweat, and you're completely naked. If you're doing it properly, you're completely naked. You have nothing else on you.
Right after your sweat, you go jump into the river. After usually the sweat is built right by a river.
Yeah.
Some people have like an old tub sitting outside by the sweat and have cold water sitting there, and you dump it over yourself. You're just steaming, right? Because of the heat.
Yeah.
And that's you wake up your spirit.
Wow.
We don't have access to stuff like that, and it's hard to find. Like my dad would go for sweats, but it's so far away, I wish we'd have one right in our yard. But my dad's been talking about building one up his ranch where we're going to be going next weekend. He wants to build one up there because there's a river right there, and it's an annual thing, right? We'll be going freaking every year, and it'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger every year. So. And he wants to do that. He's been the one that's reconnecting us, which is so weird because my mom was always the spiritual one. And now it's kind of switched, and my dad literally doesn't drink, do drugs, alcohol, none of that stuff. And he's doing sweats. He's seeing the medicine man. He's the one that introduced us to the medicine man. He's on a path of healing for sure.
Yeah.
After 50 years of suffering. He's finally really finding that place and helping us too.
To find it.
Mhm.
And then it's like Maximus gets that head start.
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is just.
Yeah. Yeah. Even just him being in the lake today, I was like, oh, it's good for him. It's kind of like a wash. Wash everything off.
Have you ever done your mother's hair? Like, since you started?
I did her hair when she was in the hospital. And that was like that was a crazy time for us because I don't know. I think you just always think that your mom is so strong and so tough and untouchable, right? So when she becomes in a state where you have to really take care of her and be there for her, I stayed in the hospital with her that night and I braided her hair, and she was so cute. She was so cute. She had her little walker and she was going around the hospital. Like, my daughter did my hair. Like, my daughter did my hair. Telling all the nurses and doctors. And we had to stay in the hospital with her. Like, me and Lex would take turns. And then Courtney would go, and we'd all just take turns taking care of her in the hospital during that time. And she doesn't usually let me braid her hair, though, because she was in an accident when I was younger. And her whole top of her scalp kind of came off. Like, it was, the pole hit her, and it was, so she's got a big scar in the front here, like, all around. So it hurts when I do braid her hair. So I have to braid it really, really lightly. You have to be careful because her scars are uncomfortable and they kind of hurt. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Anyways, that's just crazy because, you know, you talk about the hair and the connection and the power with that, and then she had that trauma. Because I think that what you're doing is healing people.
Yeah.
You're not just braiding.
Yeah, exactly.
You're actually a healer.
Yes. It's not just people who are trying to look trendy. You know, it's for people that are really trying to find themselves and trying to get their power back.
Yeah. That's a big responsibility.
You have to be careful. Like, I try and, you know, smudge before and after. I try and smudge my tools. I try and, like, protect our space. I put, my auntie told me to put, like, cedar and juniper all around all the windows and our doors to protect our house and our energy. And
your energy in that house is dope, so clearly it's working.
One of my clients said this one time, because we don't let anybody come around with alcohol at all. Like, they're not even allowed, you know, even if we're just chilling outside and they're just having one drink, like, no, you know, like, it's a complete no. And the client said she can feel that. She can feel that there is no alcohol, and, you know, that's why it makes it feel how it feels, you know, is that zone is kind of protected. A lot of our friends who drink even will even respect that, you know, like, and not come around even like that, you know, even if you've had a couple drinks and you think of stopping by or whatever, like, they won't even, they'll respect us in that sense that they just don't even, it's not that we can't handle it, it's just, why would we want that in our lives if we're not even, we excluded that from our lives for a reason. You know, it wasn't giving us power. You know, it was taking power from us. We had to choose each other over alcohol. And not a lot of people can do that.
I'm your host, Lady Dia, aka Lady Dia Melodia, and you were listening to Mummins. What a great conversation. You could hear her man talking in the background. The children were upstairs thumping and laughing away. The whole Mummins team was invested and actively engaged in the conversation. I'm also glad that you got to listen to this too. In regard to listening, I was listening to Kelsey Kilawana, a Syilx and Squamish mother and journalist, who said that the children revealed themselves now because Indigenous peoples are ready for healing. The real question is, are settlers ready to begin our own realizing and healing journeys? How are the children? How are the elderly? When they are fine, we know that we are on the right path.